Welcome back to Hustle Nation Podcast. Today, we've got a real treat for you. We've got David Brier in the house, slayer of the mundane, the BrandFather, known by many things. And when CEO Magazine wrote its article, Words of Wisdom from the World's Greatest Branding Experts, it grabbed quotes from Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, Gary Vee, Seth Godin, Richard Branson, and other business leaders, listing David Brier as one of the top branding experts. He's an award-winning veteran, recipient of over 330 industry recognitions. I'm already getting tired with this intro, David. He is also the author of the new...
Can I take a nap? I need to take a nap at this point.
He's also author of the new Branding Bible, an Amazon bestseller, Brand Intervention, 33 Steps to Transform Your Brand You Have into the Brand You Need, with forward by none other than Daymond John of the Shark Tank. David, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Beyond what you've already stated, I just learned things about myself I didn't even know were true. So that's, first of all, fantastic way to break the ice. I know more about myself now than when we started a minute ago. So thank you.
If you read it on the internet, it must be true, right?
That's right. Exactly. So basically, native New Yorker and now living and working in the Midwest. No, it's not part of a witness protection program. I started out as, my whole life I was basically an artist of one sort or another, meaning I went from drawing to painting to studying to be an illustrator. And in my last year of college, I saw a publication that I'd never seen before. It was an industry publication it's not published anymore. And what happened was I saw that and I was like, oh my God. I never saw it at a level of craft. I mean, everything, you could tell everything nothing was left to chance. So everything from the design to the typography, to the fonts, to the words, to the layout, how things fit on the page. I mean, it was just like, it was so eye-opening that I made a very conscious decision that at that point I wanted to be a designer. And then once I became a designer and started to do that, I saw that lane was too narrow, too specialized, because it still left things up for chance. It's like you could be a designer and do XYZ, which I did, so I did stuff for Estee Lauder, I did stuff for Revlon, I did stuff for Electric Company magazine and New York Times magazine. I even did a cover of Rolling Stone magazine, actually. But it was but there was still, it didn't quite allow me to make sure what was the real outcome, all the bits and pieces that contributed to what was the experience at the person attending. It's kind of like, if I were to compare it, you could say, okay, well, here's a terrific musician or singer, songwriter, or band. And all they do is they just show up and they leave all of the sound engineering to whomever. They leave all of the lighting to whomever. They leave all of the staging to whomever. Well, they don't know how the hell that concert experience is going to be for the concert goer. And that's what I was finding. So I then started to embrace more of marketing, embrace more of branding, which started as I came up through the ranks, started to become more of a thing that was talked about. And that's basically how it evolved.
That's amazing. That's a great story. And how long have you been doing what you're doing now?
As of this year, I'm gonna say this slowly. I've actually been doing it for 43 freaking years.
Wow. Doing it since you were born. Congratulations.
That's the thing. I love it when I say that to people and they go, "You don't look old enough to be doing it for that long." I said, "Yes, it's true. I started when I was 2."
Is it fair to say what you do and how you've specialized has evolved over the years?
No, without question. Without question. I mean, look, the bottom line is, I'll give you a perfect example. For those that are actually seeing this, you could see artwork around me. I'm responsible for all that artwork. Designing it, painting it, all the various different pieces and bits and pieces. And that's only part of the office. There's a whole other part with all other stuff. Well, I remember when when I first when some people came into my studio and they looked at my work, and there was definitely a transition point when I went from drawing with pencil and paper and charcoal, whatever medium I chose to use, to then transitioning and then learning this new tool, a computer, right? Because when I started my career, here's a sick part. And for your younger listeners, they're going to hear.
I already know where this is going.
Your younger listeners are going to go, "Wow, you didn't tell us this was actually going to be Journey to Jurassic Park." The thing is there were no computers when I started in the industry. There was no internet. There's no social media. When you were curious about someone's work, if I was working on a project and I needed to hire an illustrator or a photographer, I had to arrange an appointment for them to send over their portfolio. I mean, seriously, that's it. Yeah. So making that transition, going, okay, well, now I'm going to do computers, right? So now I'm going to learn the tools of computer, which at first I was resistant to. To me, it felt like, what is that shit? Partly because a high percentage of when things are first starting in their embryonic phase, when they first start, they suck. Just look at the internet, right? What the first websites? Are you freaking kidding me? They were shit. So the thing is same thing with the original illustrations done using computer tools. It looked like the device was impacting the, learning to use that tool. It was definitely being impacted. That looked computer generated, quote unquote. I didn't want that to happen. And so I remember when someone came to my studio and saw some of the work, he said, "Wow, this is incredible." And I said, "Yeah, I did this on computer." They're like, "Why are you doing it on computer? What program do you use?" And I could see what the person was thinking. What program do you use? If you tell me the program, I'll also be able to do it, was their thinking. And I'm like, bullshit, I'll keep it. I won't go there. But the basic thing is bullshit, and you can throw in the other expletives. And so the thing is I said, you know what? Let me make something perfectly clear. The software, that doesn't do anything. It's like the microphone didn't make the Beatles sound good, okay? The Beatles made the microphone sound good.
Absolutely.
That's all I said.
Yeah, absolutely. So David, one of the questions that we like to tackle here, right, is, a lot of people, when they look at people that have had success, it's that kind of age-old thing of like, oh, I had overnight success. But, in reality, when you dig in, people put in a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears to kind of get in. So, like even with your intro, you joke about it. But the reality is, you've had tremendous recognition for, really thought leadership and thinking differently relative to branding. And so, can you share a little bit about, maybe the struggle and the journey going through that? Because, everyone kind of looks at the end and says, oh, well, I just want to be like David, right? And it's like, okay, well, if you want to be like that, you're going to have to do this, and that's the part that I feel like so many people don't talk about.
Yeah. Well, there's the running joke for anybody that knows anything. Whether they watch Shark Tank or they listen to thought leaders, they say the running joke is it takes usually 10 years to become an overnight success, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
I agree.
I think there's a few things. So I agree. Normally what happens is someone gets on the radar and everyone's like, holy crap. And we on the outside have just become aware of them. So all of a sudden that trajectory seems really compressed. Well, the interesting thing about it is, so it's the ascension, and we're just like, when they start gaining mass awareness is all of a sudden that's the all of a sudden part, and they miss that journey. I think that's just one component. I think another component, which I would say is a flaw in the way that individuals are taught today. What I found is about 90% of what has contributed to my success, I didn't learn in school. I actually learned in business. Yeah. By the seat of my pants, by feast or famine, by almost not making payroll, those kinds of moments. And I think the flaw is that, so we're taught to be what? So if someone goes to study as an accountant, they're taught accounting skills. If someone's taught to be a designer, they're taught design skills. If someone's taught, So I'll take and shit. I mean, I have clients who are Grammy Award winning artists, and what are you taught when you go to Berkeley? You're taught to perform on that instrument. So we're taught these skills. Well, here's the problem. I'll speak for myself. So I end up graduating, and I will sometimes tell people, my greatest Achilles heel was that I actually had talent. And people are like, what? I said, because I was taught that was the most important thing. So what am I taught? I graduate, I get out there, and I hit the pavement, and I call up, and I get in meetings. And what am I doing? I'm showing my portfolio. I'm talking about that. What am I talking when I'm talking about all that kind of stuff? I'm basically talking about me and my skill. Well, what I started to learn as I started to get some entrepreneurial experience under my belt, and it was like, I started to show my portfolio less and less and less and ask more and more and more questions, which meant if I broke it down mathematically, it went from 80 or 90% of my attention going on, I've got to show them my stuff, to wait a second. I've got to ask them 80, 90%. Now I've got to ask them questions because what they just said either didn't make sense or I don't get it. They're talking about this, but they're talking about that. Help me connect the dots. And so to the degree that I started to become more interested in the other person on the other side of the table, their problems, their objectives, their challenges, that's where the magic, that's when all of a sudden, and then I would notice, sometimes they'd be closed before I would ever show them my portfolio, which might only take 5 minutes at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so I was like, holy shit, where is that? Well, you're not taught in school to negotiate. You're not taught to manage public speaking, wordsmith, tell stories, listen, pay attention, punch holes through bullshit. If I'm in a meeting with a client or a prospective client, and I'm sitting and I'm like, well, you just said you wanted to achieve blank, but now you're talking about blank. What's the story here? Or you're saying, I had a client or prospective client who told me about their business, and they got $2 million in funding and this, that, the other, and this was their plan and this is their trajectory, and they want to create $1 billion company. And I gave them the budget. I said, well, to do what you want me to do, the budget's $100,000 for me to do what I need to do to help you. Like, well, where do you think we had that? So, well, I'm looking at, you told me your goals. You told me what you've raised. You told me the market you're going into, the space you're going into. I know what it's going to take to get there. And then all of a sudden I'm advised, oh, well, we have $2,000. I'm like, I wish you luck.
Yeah. Best of luck.
I authentically wish you the best, but I can't be the person to help you.
It's always interesting if you think about whether it be leaders or in business or in sales. So often people are leading with the solution or leading with, here's the thing, or to your point, here's my talent, here's the thing. When in reality, just leading with questions, because there's so often people are trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
That's right.
And to your point, you're spinning in circles, or maybe it's the problem that exists, but they just don't have the tools and resources to solve it.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And that's what when we talk about hustle, I think that's where a lot of people miss is, those learnings, those don't happen from school. Those happen from the blood, sweat, and the tears, the successes, the failures, and thinking about, what did I learn in this? I think a lot of times people take failure as something that is a negative, when in reality, not that anyone wants to wake up in the morning and fail, but as long as you're learning from it, then you can grow, you can get better.
That's right.
Yeah. David, we talk so often about leadership on the show and in general, but I think so often when we talk about leadership, it comes through the lens of culture. So leading your team, leading the people you work with. And I'm really curious, having worked in the marketing industry like you, I want to know more about how you lead your clients, you kind of alluded to it in the last answer, but so often when you're working with clients, whether it's marketing or not, what does leadership look like? Because I've seen a lot of young people come into the industry, graduate right from college, and they might be really good at X skill. However, they struggle at 21, 24 years old, whatever it might be, leading someone who's my age or even in their 50s saying, I actually think, Mr. Client, that's a bad idea. Instead, here's my idea. Here's how we achieve X. And I would love to hear more about your perspective on leading clients.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is it is my job to provide guidance. And I would say, I think this is the place where everyone gets really lost. I mean, right? For your listeners, this is the freaking the gold nugget moment, guys. For guys and gals who are listening,
let's go.
Here it is. Clients come to us asking, it's like they're asking for certain outcomes. What we're providing, don't say, I'm going to provide you this XYZ progress. I would say, I'm going to provide you XYZ direction. The outcome will be progress. And if you set that relationship clearly in that way, I mean, I'm the guy that, clients will say, hey, I'm thinking da 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 da. I said, that's shit. You do that, I'm no longer working with you. I mean, that's if it gets to a really, if I hear something really stupid, I will do that. I'm not always going to be that blunt or divisive, but I might say, here's the thing, that's not going to work, and let me tell you why. I mean, I literally just spoke to a client 2 hours ago, and this billionaire client, and I said, here's the deal. I said, here are the options that we proposed. Here's this one I'm not fond of, and here's why. And he listens and he understands. There's got to be clarity and conviction and unapologetic. This is where things are. It doesn't mean you're being a domineering asshole, but it means you're being a clear-cut provider of information. If you're like, well, maybe it could be possibly if the stars align and stuff like that, and and you've had a good day and I've had a good day, and and maybe I don't know, something's good happened in the world, that my advice might be welcome to you. I'll want to punch you in the face. Now, it's horrible. That's not guidance. That's not clarity. So I mean. But you could, but I, at the same time, going back to this client, I said, but here's the one that I really recommend, and I'm going to tell you why. While some of these other ones are good and have legitimate points that we've outlined here, this one, the interesting thing is, and why we recommend it is, one, there's no noise in the marketplace. No one's even come close to that as an angle, because this is going to end up being a book. This is going to end up being a podcast. This is going to end up being keynote speech. There's going to be a variety of things that these are going to be the outcomes, the deliverables. Well, good. So I'm providing direction in the way of information, and you implement in that direction. And and you have to understand, this is a same client that I said, not too long ago, there were certain things that were happening, and I said, here's the deal. Here's how this is going, and this is how this is being managed. If this is the way you want it, we're going to have to stop working together, because I can't provide you value. No, David. I'm like, because I'm willing to walk away. That's another thing they don't teach you in school. They do not teach you in school. Be willing to walk away. That is the most powerful thing for you as a negotiator. It's the most powerful thing for you as an entrepreneur. It's the most powerful thing for you as a partner in life, like your spouse. I mean, being not even, I'm saying, like, for me to be able to, if otherwise I'm a puppet, I'm a marionette that, certain things dictate if I'm always going to say yes to whatever comes my way, how the hell am I choreographing my life? I'm not navigating anything. So, but that ability to basically say, hey, you know what? If that's what you want, fine, but that's not something that I'm going to provide. There are certain industries I don't work in, and I tell people, I don't do that. It's my choice.
And so David, so much of that comes from confidence, right? You know, the ability to walk away and the ability to just have the confidence that this is my opinion and this matters. You know, over the course of your career, has that evolved from today versus 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Because, you know, I feel like for so many people, you know, even for myself, I remember the first time I was like a leader of leaders, and I made a statement, and very much, a lot of times I just say stuff, right? This is what I'm feeling, and so this is what I say, and all of a sudden there's other people repeating it, and you're thinking, wait a second, was that well thought out, or, you know, why is anyone even really listening to me? You know, but then over time you start to see that, and that builds that confidence, right? So to your point, the ability. It's easy to walk away if you have the confidence that something else is coming along.
Well, I think underneath that, I do agree with that. And I would say underneath that, I think there's also, you've got to come to grips with the fact that they're really, and believe me, I understand the feast and famine game. And any entrepreneur that says never experienced that, they're full of shit. Okay? Yeah. Or they're being bankrolled by some silver spoon, you know, like family lifestyle. Oh yeah, you know, we got all this, you know, generational wealth, blah blah blah, and there's no freaking there's never the ditch for them to fall in, never the cliff for them to fall off of. But you know, but I would say if you face the reality of it, you've got to come to grips with this. There honestly is no shortage of customers. There's no shortage of clients. There's no shortage of people that you can provide value to. Where there's a shortage, if there's a shortage anywhere, is there's a shortage in your distribution to get the word out so that others know about you. There's a shortage in your estimation of what it takes to penetrate in the world that you need to penetrate in. There's a shortage in your ability to observe what's the level of noise out there that I need to rise up to and exceed beyond in order to be heard. And then when I am heard, I sure better have something damn freaking brilliant to say. And it doesn't mean I'm saying like, okay, now that you're listening to me, well, let me tell you about my scholarly insight bullshit. Now, no, just provide value. Be real. Be real. Be passionate. Give a shit. Care. And no, there isn't. You ask any freaking person, everyone from Warren Buffett to Gary Vee to freaking any of the sharks on Shark Tank to any successful entrepreneur to anybody who's had any degree of success. If they're being honest with themselves and they will say there really wasn't a shortage out there. There was a shortage in here, and I shortchanged myself. I shortchanged my estimation of what it would take to actually penetrate. And I shortchanged the degree of ingenuity that I needed to bring to the party.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say
there's the nugget right there. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. And we've talked even in previous episodes about the imposter syndrome. And, you know, to your point, kind of that self-limiting mindset that limits so many different people from really accomplishing things that they're capable of. They just got to get out of their own way.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
I think it's interesting
so as you have evolved and you've gotten confident, you're assertive in your way. How often when you've backed away has essentially the client come back over the top and said, no, we're following you, David?
I mean, there's been a few parting of the ways, not too many. I mean, you know, probably less than 5 over the course of, you know, some 4+ decades. And I think that's inevitable. I mean, you'll it's like, okay, well, that's the way you guys are going to roll. Can't help you, you know. But more often than not, I'm like, I mean, like, I'll give you a perfect example. I mean, Chris knows about this a little bit because of the fact that we talked about this. So, like, after I wrote this little bad boy, right? Then what happened? For those that are like only listening to this, that that was me hitting the cover of Brand Intervention, my Amazon #1 bestseller. That is not a pitch. It's just a fact. So the thing is I wrote that, and then people were approaching me saying, "Oh, you got to do a digital course." And I freaking hated the digital courses that were out there for a number of reasons. One, that they were poorly structured. Sequentially, they were bad. Probably my biggest beef was the fact that many of them provided just, here's a little template. Follow what I do. Don't understand why. I won't explain to you why. I won't explain to you the anatomy. I just blindly follow me. It's like, sorry, that's not the way I like to understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. If I understand that, if I screw it up, I can then fix it, right? Because I didn't do blank, right? I understand the anatomy of it. So what happened was, so then in 2020, I was approached by the right person, and I said, okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do this. And I took 9 months to put together the program. Well, the interesting thing is it's a 9-week program, and I'm famous for basically saying if someone says something terribly stupid, it's a hybrid of a masterclass and a mentorship. And if somebody happens to say something particularly stupid in the Saturday Zoom calls, because it's like 9 weeks, you get me 9 weeks, 18 hours, one-on-one, right there. I'm helping you, working right directly with you. And if somebody happens to say something like, "Oh yeah, well I'm thinking da-da-da," I said, "You do that, I will break your freaking kneecaps."
Seems a lot of threats of violence.
It works though, right?
It is the most bonding thing. It is. People look forward. I say it in such a way that people look forward to the next time. They're like, "Thank you. When's the next time you can schedule saying that to me? Because that was awesome, right?" They freaking, because they know. I mean, literally, this is. But it's that kind of conviction, that kind of passion. And I literally had a TED Talk speaker who did the program, but she was there for 1 week, and then she ended up having some personal issues and just health wise and this, that, the other. So it was like she kind of fell off the radar, and I was like, "What the hell?" And I know this is a very competent individual, and so I was like, "Okay, well, all right." So I reached out as the program was wrapping up, 8 weeks later, 9 weeks later. I said, "Hey, give me an update. What's going on?" Da 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 da. And so she gives me an update. I said, "We're going to jump on a Zoom call. I want to find out what's happening, how you doing, da da." We find this out, and she said, we actually recorded this. It was actually a pretty remarkable conversation, because I explained to her, I said, if you actually just you put your head down 2 hours a day, you'll have this thing done within about 2 weeks. I said, just really turn all the devices off, just focus, get this done. And this is the outcome. This is the outcome. This is the outcome. This is what will happen. And she told me, no one has ever cared for me that much. She goes, I have never, ever been cared. And no one has ever, that it's ever been a mentor or a coach has ever said, "Bullshit, I will not give up on you. I'm going to be on your ass. We're going to get this thing done because you're worth it." And she goes, I feel more powerful talking to you. So that's the impact. So to me, the question is, when we're talking to someone, whether they're a client or a colleague or whatever, are they ending up smarter, more capable, more on fire, more lit up at the end of that conversation? Whether that conversation is 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. At the end of that, are they more lit up? Are they more on fire? Do they feel more, I call it, do they feel more dangerous to their environment? And I don't mean dangerous in like a homicidal psychopath way. I mean dangerous like vital, like relevant, like without them, things will not go as well. If I can't instill that into another, I consider that I have had a failure.
So it sounds like it sounds like you use a combination of care, compassion.
I think about it as a coach, a lot of times. So we talk a lot about being like youth sports coaches, and so often it's not when the coach is coaching you, right, and pushing you and challenging you, regardless of how that is. It's actually when they give up, right, when they stop talking to you, right. That's really when it's the problem. And so when it comes from a place of caring, right. I mean, people understand that, they get better from it, right, and. Yeah. And that's tremendous. That's great.
Yeah.
So, David, as you look forward, what's next? I mean, you have all these accomplishments. You're constantly challenging the status quo. What do you see as next?
For me, there's a few things I would say. One is that we're going to probably do more master classes than ever this year than we've done before. The caliber of the people that are actually doing the master class right now is kind of off the charts, rather remarkable. And I want to clarify that only because I've encountered this. When I say something like that, I've actually had people say, well, I may not be good enough to actually be in it. I may not be big enough, or I may not have accomplished enough. I'm like, first of all, if you thought that when I said that, I have one word for you. Bullshit. Bullshit. That little voice that says, no, not me, that's bullshit. That's not your friend. That was someone who was a loser who convinced you that maybe you were a loser too. And that's bullshit. And that doesn't happen on my freaking watch. If you've got the fire and you've got the ability and you care enough to actually want to impact others, then you've got what it takes. As long as you don't show up with with a David will fix it for me bullshit. You're going to fix it for you. I'm going to help you fix it for you. I'm going to give you the tools so that you have a tool chest that makes you like freaking Rambo, that you can kick ass. And then I give you the guidance to help you kick ass. Absolutely. But you're going to do the work. And that's the thing that's awesome about it. It's a point of empowerment. But I do not do it. I never do it from the standpoint. I never am. If anybody says, "Wow, you're a really good motivational speaker," I'm like, "Go fuck yourself." I am not here to be motivational speaker. Makes me great, and my words wonderful, and you lesser than that. Bullshit. That's also anything where a person arrives at some conclusion that they are lesser than, or that they're negating themselves, or that maybe they need to shrink away from. Bullshit. You need to expand into. You need to pervade into. All those things are vital. And the bottom line is I will never let anybody, whether they're a client or whether they're a someone that's doing the masterclass with me, I will never let them get away with making less of themselves. I will call them on it. And it's been some of the most transformative moments in their life because no one cared enough to simply call them on it.
You bet. Well, and we talk about with hustle, right? It's about a mindset. And to your point, if you use that imposter syndrome of, I'm not good enough, or I'm not, there's two ways to do it, right? Some people use it as a paralysis, and some people use it for fuel. And if you use it for fuel, right? I mean, there's some value in having a little bit of that, because it makes you get better, right? It makes you push your product, push your craft, push yourself outside of your comfort zone, which is where all good things happen. But it's that moment of truth where when you say you can't do something, all right, well, how are you going to do that? Does that mean I can't do something, so I won't do something, or I can't do something, so I'll figure out how to do it?
Yeah. Right? And here's one other point that many people miss. Winners win because of the baggage they don't have. So there's the factor of subtraction. It's the factor of subtraction that is so important. The shit that we need to unlearn. It's like so that. I mean, it's so crazy. But that's so much of what happens in this whole thing. And I mean, for me, it's a joyride. But if some people are super freaking insistent, are like, oh, I can't do, I can't show up, I couldn't make anything, it's like, you know what? I have a threshold to which I will lean in, and I will. But if you're gonna be insistent on all those outside factors and outside excuses and reasons why, there will be a threshold, and I will like, okay, sink or swim on your freaking own. Yeah. It's like I've got people to help. There are things to be done. Every hour, it's like, why do some people achieve remarkable things in the same 24 hours that we all have? Well, bottom line is it's like those are choices that we make. The choices of what we say yes to, and even more importantly, probably the choices that we say no to. No, I will not. I mean, I've had, there's some people. But with all that being said, the majority of online programs worldwide, statistically, completion rates around 10%. My masterclass has about a 95.5 or 95.6 percent completion rate.
That's incredible.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, and it speaks to, people selecting for the right reason and going all in, right? So to your point earlier, the idea is it may not be right for you. And if it's not right for you, whatever, that's fine. But don't have that self-talk of I'm not good enough or anything like that. I mean, in some ways, if you're interested in it and it's something that's that you're passionate about, and you just don't think you're there yet, then you just know it's a voice, right? I mean, that's to your point, that's incredible from a completion perspective, because it's kind of like the gym. I feel like a lot of people they buy these digital classes or get into a mastermind group or things like that, and they feel like just because they paid the membership, they're suddenly going to be healthy and fit, right? It's not the way it works. I mean, if you got to get engaged, you got to buy in, and you got to trust the process in a lot of ways, right? Because I'm sure in those 9 weeks, there's times where people are getting really uncomfortable with what you're pushing them to do, right? But that's where their growth comes from.
100%. 100%. Great. To me, I always like to remind anyone involved in business or any entrepreneurial adventure or leadership as well, is that growth by definition is expansion. Well, that means that whatever sphere of influence you have right now, whether it's sphere of influence or sphere of capability, it could be, an athletic performer, like having a certain degree of capability in a certain area, or it could be an entrepreneur. We'll keep it business related now. You have a sphere of influence. Well, what's involved in growth? Growth is involved in more clients, more customers, newer customers. Well, with that growth comes new territory you are unfamiliar with. That means you will have hiccups. You will have speed bumps. You will have some failures. How quickly are you resilient and rebound to resolve the failures? People don't mind failures. People mind failures with lack of accountability.
Very good.
That's what you bring.
So I'm gonna take a left turn here for a second. When we think of branding, one of the key topics that is getting a lot of traction now is really around personal brand, right? And how to lead with personal brand and what that means, and what are the best ways to tackle that. Could you kind of share with the listeners a little bit about just kind of your views on kind of personal branding and what that means?
Well, the bottom line is one of the things that I find very interesting. I mean, I've watched that sort of trajectory shift in the awareness of people and awareness of entrepreneurs. And I remind people, I say, well, the interesting thing about the brands that we remember the most, that seem to resonate with us the most, are the ones that have a person connected with it. So, so the thing is, Steve Jobs with Apple, bang. Oh, okay, good. Warren Buffett with Berkshire Hathaway, Elon Musk with Tesla, Richard Branson with Virgin, Gary Vee with VaynerMedia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You just keep on picking. You go, why do these stand apart? David Ogilvy with freaking Ogilvy, and Mathers. So the thing is you go, wow, it's just the fact that it became a little more pronounced as social media started to become pronounced. And then you have a great point. You have Alex Hormozy with acquisition.com. You go, okay, so there's this figure, someone who can actually state, and here's the thing that people don't know. I'm going over this on a Zoom call tomorrow with about 50 entrepreneurs from around the world. There's always the person who's like the catalyst, who's like the rebel catalyst, who's going, I don't agree with what are the available options. There's time for a new standard. Let's acknowledge that the existing stuff is broken. Here's an opportunity. Here's an opportunity for something new. Okay, so you have the catalyst. Now, people aren't going to normally get behind just a catalyst, but what they will get behind is what the catalyst brings about. That catalyst, what does that catalyst bring about? They bring about this bigger cause, this bigger value proposition that reframes the entire thing. So no longer just making little shit or servicing little shit. It's like, we're here. Like when people ask me, like, what do I do? It's like, I'm here to freaking empower entrepreneurs to stop using Me Too cliches and actually take ownership of their rightful place in the world. People can get behind that. That's bigger than me. Sure. I happen to be the voice talking about that, but that's bigger than me. So the thing is there's those two pieces. There's that rebel catalyst, and then there's that thing that others can get behind. That's when you start being able to introduce a movement, a shift. People will rally toward, and people will say, I'm on board with that. And so that to me is the thing when it comes to personal branding. You know, it's like, I mean, I can imagine some people listening to this might say, well, he hasn't talked about like which platform should I use and what's the best medium and blah, blah, blah. That's all the tactical little granular shit. That's the easy stuff. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass and it's time consuming, but that's the easy stuff. The stuff that I'm talking about, you know that you'll be able to actually forge your pathway to where you need to go, to whatever scale you want to do it on.
Yeah.
But that's the basic thing with regard to personal branding. I love personal branding, you know, and some people might have this view, and so I'm going to address it. Say, well, I'm not really good in front of a video camera. No one said videos are synonymous with personal branding. For a number of people, they are. They're good in front of the camera. They're good with their ability to speak, to crystallize an idea, to put it into words that are meaningful to others. For others, it's the written word, right? For others, it might be, I don't know, might be song. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be whatever. But just you dictate the medium. Yes. The medium doesn't dictate you. You're like, okay, I do have something to say. Good. Where is the place that you can do it? Like, I mean, I heard a thing with Tom Bilyeu the other day. He was talking to Alex Hormozy, and he was like, you know, until he created a podcast, he really didn't have a place for him to like expand and explode. And he goes, once I had a mic, he goes, I'm good with putting together my thoughts, interviewing, doing all this kind of stuff. And he goes, once I had that, then I was like, okay, now I'm freaking on fire, because that was his channel. So I was like, okay, podcasting. See, because what's interesting, and Tom, if you're listening to this, sorry, buddy. I mean, I think the expression you have when you're interviewing people, you look like you're freaking a corpse, dude. You look like you're sitting in a casket. It's like you have the strangest expression on your face. You don't look alive. You don't look interested. But when I hear you speak on a podcast, you're engaged. You're interested. But it's so fascinating. I mean, I'm just letting you know, if you happen to be listening to this show and you're like, who the fuck is this asshole? That's okay. That's okay. Because believe me, when I first saw you and how you looked at people, my thought was the same. I'm like, who the fuck is this asshole?
Well, we'll be sure to send it to him so that he makes sure that he hears this part. That's perfect. Offending other podcasters. That's incredible. Yeah. So, as we, kind of are starting to wrap up here, David, for those, we talked about the match class and things like that, for those that, maybe really want to engage and learn more with you and your companies, what would be the best way for them to engage?
Well, I'll definitely give you some links, but certainly if you go to risingabovethenoise.com, RISING, risingabovethenoise.com, and you just go there. You can subscribe. You'll be the first you'll join a community of over, I think we're at 7,211 entrepreneurs who subscribe. That community, you'll join that. Be the first to kind of get articles and things as I release them, and other offerings. And certainly, if you have not gotten this, what do I have to freaking punch you in your face? Buy the book, okay?
More threats of violence. More threats of violence.
More threats of violence. That just means I freaking love you, okay? If I didn't give a shit, I'd say I don't know. I'd probably I'd probably send you a kitten emoji or something like that. But the bottom line is no. Get the hard. It's the hardcover. And I'm going to tell you why I tell you to get the hardcover. Okay, the hardcovers, because if you get the soft cover, you get the paperback. These people are going to want to steal this from your office. I'm telling you, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So if someone goes to your office and they actually, it's like, hey, and it's and they borrow it, air quotes, borrow it, and you're like, and then you like grab it back. Now, when you hit them with the paperback, it doesn't feel like your heart's in it, but you hit them with this, they're like, holy shit, he really means business. So that's the thing. So certainly grab Brand Intervention, but seriously, you visit Rising Above the Noise. You can catch me on Twitter. You can catch me on LinkedIn. You can catch me on YouTube, Instagram, all that kind of shit. That's fine. But the bottom line is you can find all those things, through the website. Actually, I'm working on this next book, and it's the person that's written it. They've written the foreword. It's epic. The content is epic, and it takes a different angle on branding. It takes the synergy factor and the collaboration factor and the community factor, those components with regard to a brand. Brand Intervention, super proud of. People have gotten amazing value out of it, and they continue to. But this is going to now expand it to, okay, others. This is more of an outward thing. It's like that next layer. And the person that's written the forward, you will pinch yourself when you find out who that is. It's freaking epic. It's awesome.
I love the clicker. See, so that's branding 101. Leave them with a little bit left. I love that.
Yep. There you go. But yeah, well, I mean, look, the bottom line is, I mean, I know you touched upon this leadership angle, but the bottom line is branding ultimately, when done properly, to me is one of the finest forms of leadership. Because what is a leader ultimately doing? A leader is ultimately helping light up that spark in others so that they can not be lit up externally, but now have the wherewithal to light themselves up internally, right? That they can light that fuse. That, to me, that's true leadership. Because if I'm always dependent on others and I'm always dependent on the leader, well, then shit, that makes me dependent. To me, the greatest leaders help us each become more independent, still be aligned, but independent. So
without a doubt,
that's the ultimate form of collaboration. And the greatest brands do that for us. They go like, wow, I can do X, Y, Z. I can run, I could just do it. I can run, think different. Oh, I can, it's like, bang, you're reminding me of that ability to stand on my own 2 feet, and really, really go for it. So that's where I think the magic is. And I can't believe I didn't do this the whole show. It's like, it's like I'm here with Dustin, and Chris, out in the stadium, out in the middle of the Midwest, west.
See, now you're just showing off, right? Just when you think there's technical difficulties, you just make it up. That's fine. I love it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? See, it's funny. I mean, it's like I never think of it as showing up. I think of it as like, you know what? I'm reminding people of like, you know what? If you ain't freaking having fun, you're doing something wrong.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, it's like, why'd you start following so and so? Well, because they really bored me to death, and it was really like I don't know. I mean, I found myself a little too excited, but then when I got into their presence, I was ready to take a nap. That's their kind of leadership. They're like a soft pillow in the middle of corporate America. And by the way, I just want people to know, because I know you and I talked about this, and you're going to drop this at the beginning of next week sometime. If anyone's listening to this and they're like, hey, you know what I love about the masterclass, and I will give you a link with regard to the masterclass. We are actually having one starting at the end of this month, basically in around 10 days. And we've got people from India, the UK, America. Do we have any Canadians in this one? We might have 1 or 2 Canadians. That's true. We do actually allow Canadians in the show, in the program. But we've got such an amazing collection of entrepreneurs of all different types and sizes, and that's the synergy that happens in it. That's the part that gets really cool. The program itself is freaking brilliant, and it just because of the output. We've literally, I mean, we've almost gotten 100 people through the program. They've generated over $212 million in revenue since completing the program.
That's incredible.
Okay, so it's insane what they do, but it's the synergy in those Saturday things. It becomes its own little group and community, and they're learning at the same time and seeing, and it's very, very awesome. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. You and I know you and I are going to talk about this, Chris, and I'll get you the links and I'll get you all the various things. But for you got any folks, it's like, don't sit on your freaking potential. The world doesn't need to wait to find out that you're freaking awesome, okay? Telepathy is a shit marketing strategy. Trust me.
Can't believe you stole my hat.
It was just laying there, minding its own business.
Yeah.
It looked very. It felt safe to take home.
Yeah, I love it. Well, David, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for sharing all the insights with our crew. Thank you all for listening. Until next time, peace.
Shine bright.